Alright, grade 8, so welcome to the next video. This is the video key for practice test number 2, and we will start on question number 4a. So for question number 4a, I need to express each decimal as a fraction in the simplest form. Okay, so if I have 1.6, the idea is you want to move the decimal place one spot over to the right, so you get 16. So if you have moved the decimal one spot over, you need to divide by 10. And this 0 right here represents the number of spaces that you're moving over to the right. So since I moved over one spot, I need 1, 0. And if I simplify this a little bit further, if I divide the numerator and the denominator by 2, I will get 8 over 5. Okay. Now let's just move on to question number 4c here. I have 0.0002. Now the idea is very similar to 4a. I want to move this decimal spot all the way to the end, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I moved the decimal 4 spots over to get 2. And since I moved the decimal spot 4 spots over, I need 4 zeros on my denominator. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I simplify this, I should get 1 over 5,000. All right, so 1 over 5,000 will equal to 0.0002. And then I'm going to move on to question number D now. Now for D, once again, I want to move this decimal spot to the right, so 1, 2. If I move the decimal spot over 2 spots, I get 85. And since I moved the decimal 2 spots, I need 2 zeros, so 1, 2. So 0.85 is the same thing as 85 over 100. And if I simplify that, I will get 17 divided by 20. Alright, so I think A, C, and D follow a similar pattern. Now question number 4b is a little bit different, 0.6 repeating. So 0.6 repeating is the same thing as 0.6666 repeating. And we did have a question like this in one of the in-class assignments, and for the students who were asking help for this one, I told students to write 0.666 repeating and let that equal to a letter, the letter X. I don't know what X is. I'm just saying that X is 0.666 repeating. Now, a very clever way to kind of do this problem is if I move this decimal spot one spot over to the right, I will get 6.6666 repeating. So my question to you is, if I have this 0.6666 repeating, what do I have to do to that number in order to get the number above? Well, since I moved the decimal over to the right by one spot, that means I need to multiply this thing by 10. So if 0.666, if that's equal to x, and if I take x and multiply it by 10, then I get 10x, and that will give me this 0.66666 repeating. Okay? Alright, so to kind of finish up this problem, I told students that all you need to do now is you needed to subtract the two equations here. So let's subtract these two equations. If I have 10x minus x, this is the same thing as asking yourself, if I have 10 apples and if I minus 1 apple, how many apples are left over? Well, if I have 10 apples and minus 1 apple, I should have 9 apples left over. Okay? Now, the next thing you have to do is, if you look at this expression right here, 6.666 repeating, and if I take that number and subtract 0.666 repeating, if you take those two numbers and subtract them, you're actually left with just the number 6. So 6 equals to 9x. And then from here on, we want to divide each side of the equation by 9, and we get 6 over 9 equals to x. So 0.66 repeating is the same thing as 6 over 9, and if you simplify this a little bit further, this is the same thing as 2 divided by 3. Alright, so that's how you approach question 4b. Alright, let's go on to question number 5. For question number 5, I need to round off each of the following to 2 decimal places. Okay, so for question number 5a, this question is a little bit simpler because they give me the decimal places. Now, if I want to round to 2 decimal places, this is my cutoff, 1.19. So there's 9. I want to look at the number next to 9, and since the next number to 9 is a 5, anything greater or equal to 5 means I need to round up. So this will be 0.20 rounded to 2 decimal places. All right, and for the other questions like B and C, what you have to do here is you need to use long division. So in order to get 2 decimal places for question 5B, you need to set this question as a long division problem, 8 divided by 7. And you'll notice that 8 does not go into 7, so what you can do is you can put a decimal spot at the top, and then you can just add a few zeros. And then you need to ask yourself, how many times does 8 go into 70? Well, 8 goes into 70 about 8 times. So 8 times 8 will be 64. If I subtract those two, I will get 6. Bring down the 0. Now you're going to ask yourself, how many times does 8 go into 60? Well, 8 goes into 60 roughly 7 times, which is that. So 8 times 7 will give you 56. If you subtract those, you get 4. Bring down the 0. Then ask yourself, how many times does 8 go into 40? And that will be 5 times, and that will give you the 40 with a remainder of 0. Now, if you take this number here, 0.875, and if you round that to 2 decimal places, this will be 0.88. All right, so that's how you do question number 5B. For question number 5C, very similar. You want to set up a long division expression, so 9 divided by 8. Now, 9 cannot go into 8, so what you have to do, once again, is you want to put a little decimal here at the top. And once you have a decimal at the top, you can just add a few zeros. Unlimited zeros if you like. Then you need to ask yourself, how many times does 9 go into 80? Alright, so 9 can go into 80 roughly 8 times, and that will give you 72. So 8 times 9 gives you the 72 right there. Okay. And then what we have to do now is we need to take the difference between 80 and 72. The difference between 80 and 72 is 8. Bring down the 0, and then I'll have 80. 9 goes into 80 about 8 times again, so that'll give you 72. And if you take the difference, you get 8 again. And if you bring down another 0, you'll notice that you keep on getting 80. So if I continue this problem, I think I would just get 8, 8, 8 repeating on forever. So if I round this to 2 decimal places, just take a look at the third spot over, which is an 8. 8 is bigger than 5, so you would just round this to 0.89. And that would be the answer for 5C. All right, so question 5D, we have a mixed fraction here, so let's just change this to an improper fraction. So 7 times 1 is 7, 7 plus 1 is 8, so now I have 8 divided by 7. In this case, the denominator is bigger than the numerator, so we still use the same approach, 7 going into 8. Now, how many times does 7 go into 8? Well, it goes into 8 one time, so you get a 7 there. Take the difference, you get 1. Now, does 7 go into 1? The answer is no, so what you have to do is you got to put a decimal at the top and add a few zeros here. And then you kind of start the whole procedure again, where this time you would just bring down a 0. And ask yourself, how many times does 7 go into 10? Well, it goes into 10 one time, so 1 times 7 is 7. Take the difference, you get 3. Bring down the 0. Ask yourself, how many times does 7 go into 30? Well, 7 will go into 30 about 4 times, which will give you 28. Take the difference. 30 minus 28 is 2. Once again, bring down the 0. How many times does 7 go into 20? Well, that's going to be about 2 times, which will give you 14. And then if you take the difference there, you get 7. And then you kind of repeat this pattern here where you keep on bringing the 0, and you're probably going to go on forever here. So if I take this number right here and round that to 2 decimal places, that's going to be about 1.14, and that would be an acceptable answer. This would be a good answer for a final answer. So the answer is 1.14 for question 5D. All right, so you'll definitely have a few of those questions on the real test. And now let's move on to question number 6A. All right, so 6A here. So here are the more challenging questions where you have a combination of decimals and fractions, and let's see what we can do here. All right, so for question number 6A, I see some brackets right here. So BADMAS tells us that we need to do the brackets right away. So let's do 4.8 divided by 0.3. Now this one here, you can do a little trick. And if you move the decimal spot one place over, and if you move the denominator's decimal place 1 point over, that's the same thing as 48 divided by 3. So 48 divided by 3, that's going to be roughly 16. So you can change this question to be 8.3 times 20.8 minus 16. Okay. And then here on, I would recommend just doing the multiplication here, 8.3 times 20.8. So definitely set that up as 20.8 times 8.3. So set up the equation like that. And 20.8 times 8.3, this would give you a 4, a 2, and a 6. Bring down to 0. This would be a 4, a 6, a 6, and a 1. So please verify that. And if I go back to my original question, I moved the decimal spot 1 over there, 1 spot here, 1 spot there. So I need to move the decimal spot 2 spots in my final answer. So this is going to be 172.64. And then I need to kind of subtract 16 from my final answer. So this will be 172.64 minus 16, and this will give me a final answer of 15.6. Sorry, this will give me an answer of 152.64. All right, let's move on to question number 6b now. Now for these kind of questions, I really recommend that you try your best to change everything into a fraction. If you're able to change everything into a fraction, sometimes I find that the calculations are a little bit easier. Okay, so this right here, 2.7 divided by 0.3, this is very similar to the idea in the previous problem. So all you have to do here is move the decimal spot one place over, and in the denominator you would move that one spot over, and that would be the same thing as 27 divided by 3. And we all know that 27 divided by 3 will be 9, okay? So we can definitely simplify question 6b if we see that little trick there. So this will be 2.8 plus 9. And then what about this guy right here, 0.64 divided by 0.8. Now for this question, we can't use the same trick that we just used, because if I have 0.64 and if I move the decimal spot, I need to move it 2 spots over to get 64. But on the denominator, I only move it by 1. So I can't really do 64 divided by 8 in that case. So when we have something like this, if you can see the answer from your previous math classes, the answer to this would be 0.8. Now, if you can't see 0.8 really quickly, then what I recommend doing is I would take each of the numerator and the denominator and turn them into fractions. So if I have 0.64, I recommend changing that to be 64 divided by 100. Okay, so 64 divided by 100 is the same thing as 0.64. And then I would write a division statement here, divided by. Now the reason why I'm writing this division statement here is because you have that division line right there. And then if I have this 0.8, I would write that as, 8 divided by 10. So 8 divided by 10 is the same thing as 0.8. Okay. All right, so what I can do here now is I would change the division sign into a multiplication sign and flip this to be 10 over 8. And this would be 64 divided by 100. Okay, and then once we get down to here, I definitely see some simplification here. 64 and 8, that's going to be 1 and 8. This is going to be 1 and this is going to be 10. So this final answer here would be 8 divided by 10, which is the same thing as 0.8. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write this as 8 divided by 10, and I'm going to use that in my calculate. I'm going to use that to help me simplify the final answer here. So let me just erase all this now. So I'm going to write this division statement here, and we know that 0.64 divided by 0.8 is the same thing as 8 divided by 10. All right, we just did the calculations a few seconds ago. All right, so from here on, I would just take 2.8 and add that to 9. That's going to give me 11.8 divided by 8 divided by 10. And then from here on, I would recommend changing this into a fraction. So that's the same thing as 118 divided by 10. And then I'm going to take this division statement, change that to a multiplication sign, and then I'm going to take the reciprocal here, which is 10 divided by 8. And then from here on, I can do some simplification here. I noticed that the 10s will just go away as 1 and 1. So this is the same thing as 118 divided by 8. And you know what, for this kind of question, I will take this as an acceptable answer. If you want to simplify this a little bit more, you can dividing by 2. But if you divide by 2, you should get 59 divided by 4. And those are acceptable answers there. 118 divided by 8 or 59 divided by 4. Those are all acceptable answers to me for this test. Okay, let's move on to question number 16 now. I got 7.5 divided by 3 1/4 times 3 divided by 5 plus 2.25. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this guy into an improper fraction. So if I do that, I will get 7.5 here divided by, alright, so 3 times 4 is 12 plus 3, that's going to give me 15 divided by 4 times, this is going to be 3 over 5 plus 2.25. Okay. Alright, so from here on, what can we do next? Well, what I recommend doing next is changing everything into a fraction. So if I have 7.5, that's the same thing as 75 divided by, well, if I move the decimal spot one spot over, that means I need 1 0 on the denominator there. So 75 divided by 10 is the same thing as 7.5. Then I'm going to have a divided by 15 over 4. Times this by, well, this is going to be 3. Okay, well, let's see here. If I take this guy right here, 2.25, and if I move the decimal spot 2 spots over, that's going to be 225 divided by 100. Okay, and then if I have the fraction 3 over 5, and the idea is how can you make this denominator and that denominator the same? Well, you want to change the 5 into 100 here, so the question is, how do you go from 5 to 100? And that means you got times by 20, so that means you got times the numerator by 20, and that would give you 60. So 3 times 20 will give you 60. Okay, so the reason why I did that was because I want to have the same denominators. So if I convert 2.25 into a fraction, I get that, which is 225 divided by 100. And all I want to do is I really want to get the denominators here and here the same. So the least common multiple there should be 100. So all we have to do is times 3 over 5 by 20 to get 60 over 100. Alright, so we're making good progress here. The next thing I would do is I need to finish this statement off right here. So this will be 75 over 10 divided by 15 over 4 times by, well, 60 plus 225, that's going to be 285 divided by 100. Okay, so in order to get this 285, I simply add the 60 plus the 225. Alright, still we have a few more steps to go. I'm going to highlight this division sign right there. I'm going to change that to a multiplication sign. So this would be 75 over 10. This will be 4 over 15, which is the reciprocal, times 285 divided by 100. And then from here on, I would definitely look for numbers where you can do some simplification. So let's take a look here. Where can we simplify this problem here? Well, if I look at this 75 and that 100, I can definitely divide both those numbers by 25. If I do that, I'll get a 3 here and I'll get a 4 there. And if I do, if I take my 15 and my 285, if I divide it by 5, I should get a 3 here, and 5 will go into 287, 57 times roughly. Okay, and then I would look at my 4 and I will look at my 10 there. Let's divide those by 2, so that will be 2 and that would be 5. And then you'll notice that I have a 3 here and a 3 there, so that's going to cancel off as a 1 and a 1. And Anything else here? Yes, we can take this 2 and that 4. I'll cross that off as a 1 and make that a 2. That's pretty good there. So this is going to be, if I look at all the numbers here, I've got 1, a 1, and a 57. So the numerator is going to be 57. And then I'll divide that by 5 times 2. So I have a 5 there, a 2 there, and a 1 there. So 5 times 1 times 2 is going to be 10. And 5.7 divided by 10 is the same thing as 5.7. Alright, so on the test, I will take this as a final answer. I can also take that as a final answer. Both of them are okay with me. Okay, let's move on to question 6D, E, and F, and I'll try to do these as quickly as I can. For 6D, I have 39, well, I have a division sign there, so let's just do 39 times 27 over 26. So this question is the exact same question from the practice test number 1. If I look at 39 and the 26, I can divide each term by 13, so that would be 2, that would be 3 if I divide by 13. And then we can just kind of multiply right through here. So 27 times 3, that's going to be 81. And then divide that by 2. So the final answer there is 81 divided by 2. Question number E, we've seen a question similar to this. So 21 divided by 25, write that as just 21 divided by 25 times 10 divided by 14. And from here on, use the same strategy. Find numbers that kind of divide into, both numbers. So 7 will go into here twice. 7 will go into this one 3 times. Then if I look at 10 and 25, I want to divide each term by 5. This would be 2. This would be 5. And then multiply straight across. 3 times 2, that's going to be 6. And then I have 5 times 2, that's going to be 10 on the denominator. 6 divided by 10 is the same thing as 3 over 5. Alright, question number F. Let's change everything into a improper fraction. So this will be 32 over 3 divided by 17 over 4. So most of you can probably do that in your head. And then let's just change this division sign into a multiplication sign, and this will be 4 over 17. And then from here on, I don't see anything that will simplify, so we just kind of multiply straight across. So 32 times 4, that's going to be 128, divided by 3 times 7, that's going to be 51. Alright, so that's the answers. Those are the answers for question number 6. I will make one final video going over the last 2 questions from practice test number 2. Alright, we'll see you guys again in the next video.